Good morning, Kristina. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well. It's so nice to see you on this Friday morning, on this Friday te prep day. Is it a prep day for you?
Yes,
Yeah,
I do Friday
tonight is your
days.
Sabbath?
Yep.
Yeah,
hmm
good. Good. It's so nice to see you. And you're coming from Florida. And just off camera, I was saying I'm a little bit jealous. And you said not in the summer, but I don't know if that's true. I think that I would prefer a Florida summer over Canada winter.
Well, I was actually telling my kids because they're jealous of all the people with all the snow. They want to, be in the snow. And I told them that our summer is probably like winter for you guys. Like we have to stay inside during summer half the time because it's just so unbearably hot, unless we're like at a pool or the beach or something.
Yeah, we do. We have extremes. We have a couple days like that where it's sweltering and actually unsafe to be outside. Um, okay, I get it. But the snow, anyway, the grass is always greener, right? The snow is
Yes.
so hard to deal with when there's like I've been snowed into my house before. I've had to actually get a shovel and dig my way out of my door because there's been so much snow. So maybe
Can
one day
imagine.
we can maybe one day they can experience it. Where's the closest place that they could see snow to you?
Um, I think Upper Georgia has snow sometimes, which is right above us, so probably like 6 hours away. It's not
I'm
too far.
I'm still just trying to get the hang of the geography. Your country is, as big as my country, and I'm meeting so many amazing people from all over your country, really. So it's nice to have you today here, and I am super excited, and I'm sure people know you, and if they don't know you, they know your husband, that's for sure. Um,
Yes.
so if you want to just tell us who you are, and you can even use your husband to segue into that if you want. And then we can go back and just find out all about how you arrived here.
Okay. So yeah, I'm Christina Cook. Some of you may know my husband Sherwood Cook because he's pretty, I guess, got a pretty big following on Facebook and TikTok and stuff like that because he likes to share about our beliefs. Um, and a lot of people follow him with that. So I don't do that so much. Every once in a while, I'll share little nuggets. But he definitely has a gift in that area for sure. So it's been a blessing. But yeah, so we have been following Torah, walking in his ways for about 4 years now. And it has been quite a journey. Overall, it's been a big blessing. So yeah.
Great. So are you guys homesteading? I think you're homeschooling at the very least. You have a whole handful of kids.
Yes. So, we started homesteading about 3 years ago. We felt a huge calling to leave the city and come out to the country. And we have four kids. I actually homeschool another kid. I can go into a little bit more, but it's my stepson's brother from his mom. So I homeschool my stepson, his brother, and then my two other children. And then I also have a baby. So, which is another part of my testimony is the baby. So we'll get into that later too.
Mm.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, I invite you to go back as far as is relevant. Some people go right back to the beginning if they've had, anything that happened to them as a child that, most of us do that form the way that we grow up, but just go back to wherever is relevant.
Yeah, I'll start from the beginning because I have a lot that has led me to where I am now. So my parents were not raised in a Christian household at all. My dad, his family had some dabbling with like the Mormon faith. So when my mom got pregnant with me, she was 17 and my dad was 19. They weren't married or anything. She got pregnant with me, and my dad like a switch flipped in his head that he needed to like man up and go to church and be responsible and all of that, which was really cool. But he ended up going to the Mormon church because that's what he knew. And yeah, so then my mom went there for a little bit, and I don't know exactly how long they were there, but they ended up leaving that because they just saw some things that were strange with it. And then my dad kind of fell away from believing, and my mom, when I was around 4, she got involved with a small Pentecostal church and had a whole salvation experience, whatever you want to call it. And so we started going to church really steadily at that point. And um, and then I moved a lot as a kid. Just my parents being irresponsible more than anything. It wasn't like my dad was in the military or anything like that. Um, and that kind of played a role with our church situation. Like we were at that point, we were in and out of church. Like it was a bunch of up and down. So I believed in God, but I didn't really like have a solid foundation, I would say. Until I was 11, I had an experience where my mom actually dropped me off at church. I just expressed an interest in wanting to go. And it they shared the gospel message and it made so much sense to me. And I gave my life to Christ at that point. And when I got home, I wanted to get rid of all of my stuff that had nothing to do with anything to do with God. So and that's what I knew him as at that point, God and Jesus. So those were the names, I was familiar with. I was heavily into reading Harry Potter books, and I had actually read like them multiple times. Like I was a huge nerd about it. I was so excited because the movie was supposed to be coming out soon and everything. And I threw it all away. My mom even tried to get me to put it in a yard sale to sell it to people, and I was like, no, I don't want people to have anything to do with this. It's not good. So I threw it all away. I threw away my country music CDs, which I mean, I don't think that stuff's like absolutely horrible now, but just that was my experience in the moment that I just needed to get all of this out of my life. And I started reading my Bible and I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just reading here and there, or like picking up a little devotional to read for my age. And then from that point on, I was always in church. Like I was very, very involved with my youth group. I didn't have like any musical abilities or anything like that. So I wasn't like on the worship team, but I was part of their drama team, which is kind of funny for people that know me because I'm a very quiet person. But I enjoyed it because it was a way of sharing the gospel. And then I went on several mission trips like out the country and stuff like that. And it was a big part of my life. While I was in youth group, I met he was my second boyfriend. I was 15 when we started dating and we dated for 4 years. He proposed to me, so I would say we were kind of like high school sweethearts. Like everyone knew us as a couple. That was like my identity almost. And we got married like right after he graduated because he was actually a little bit younger than me. And we our first year of marriage, I found out some things about him that were really heartbreaking. He was essentially cheating on me because he had a very bad porn addiction. And I found out because he had been messaging people on my computer and I had opened it up and I had seen some messages. So his porn addiction led him down the route of actually contacting other people. Like he was getting on chats and talking to people online and stuff like that. And I was what, 20 at that point, and that was just like the most devastating thing to me. Like I didn't even know how to deal with it. So we didn't separate or anything. I like spent the week at my mom's just to get some space, and he asked for forgiveness and said he would change and all that type of stuff. So I went back and just I almost just try to ignore it. Like I didn't really know how to deal with it because he he came from a believing family and like they were very heavily involved in the church. Like I was really, really close with his mom because she was like one of the youth leaders in the church that we were at. And so he had that upbringing, like more so than even I did. And oh, I forgot to mention something. I want to rewind a little bit. When I was 17, my dad passed away unexpectedly. My parents had divorced when I was 14 because they couldn't get along when they were together. When they were apart, they were fine. They were friends even, I would say. So they got divorced when I was 14, and at the time it really, really stinked. But looking back, it actually ended up being a blessing because of their divorce. My dad had ended up having more time to spend with us, like individual time, because he had us every other weekend, me and my siblings. And so I got to spend a lot more time with him than I did when my parents were together, and quality time, I would say. So when I was 17, he was killed by a drunk driver. So it was very, very unexpected. And my world shattered, like absolutely shattered, because that was like the first death I'd ever experienced, and then someone that was very close to. Um, and I went through a really dark time with that, but I still I still held on to God. I didn't like walk away or anything like that, but I went through a period of like being depressed and stuff like that. Um, but I was fortunate to have people that told me to lean on to God with that. Like it was okay to be sad, upset, and all that, just lean on to God with it. And the reason I kind of want to mention that, 'cause that kind of plays a role into why I ended up in the relationship I was in, because of going through that huge trauma, just being with someone that knew my dad and that I had already had a serious relationship with. It just seemed right just to stay with him, 'cause I could hold on to at least my dad met who I was going to marry, that type of thing. I guess was my logic, because when we were dating, I did have some, I guess, red flags about being married to him, but I just kind of, pushed them back. But anyways, so flash forward to going through the whole marriage. So after I found out about all of that, we kind of just brushed past it, and I just trusted that he was being faithful and doing what he said he was going to do. I mean, I don't know if he was living a double life or if he was genuine at some point with repentance. I really don't know, because when we were married about, it was 4 years, we were both serving in a youth ministry. It wasn't at a church, it was like a separate ministry that was for teens. So me and him served there, and his mom also served there too. I served with his mom, and like they had a little cafe area, so I served there, and he served like helping lead the teens and stuff like that. So um there was a bunch of teenagers there. And at when we were married about 4 years, there was this one girl there that showed a keen interest in him, and it was kind of, like not healthy at all. And one of the ladies that actually ran the ministry had a talk with him. I wasn't included in the talk. I don't really know why, but about how it appeared, that it didn't look right how the girl was being towards him and stuff like that. So he needed to keep his distance from her. And I found out about this in hindsight. Anyways, I had some concerns because it was stuff that I noticed too, and I confronted him about it, which was like a huge deal for me because I do not like confrontation. I honestly, looking back, feel like it was the Holy Spirit kind of guiding me, and that like I knew something wasn't right. And he assured me that everything was fine, and he ended up giving a testimony about his freedom from his addiction that he had like a couple months later. And I was like, okay, things must be really good if he's willing to like speak out in public that he's been freed from this. And yeah, it wasn't true, because about 7 months later, it was like a month after my birthday, it was really weird how everything came out to play, but I was supposed to have jury duty. So I had the day off of work. I was a teacher at this point. So I had the day off work because I had jury duty. I was supposed to like call to see if they wanted me to still come in. And so I was still there when he had to leave for work, basically. And he didn't say goodbye to me, which was very strange because he always said goodbye to me. And so I was like, okay, something's not right. He didn't like say goodbye to me, like he just left. So I sent him a text message asking him why he didn't say goodbye to me. And he just like let it out through a text message that he no longer loved me, that he didn't care about me, like he's been holding it in for a long time, and he just didn't have feelings for me anymore, and just a lot of information through a text message of someone I'd been with for 9 years. So like it was just unbelievable what I was reading, basically, like just asking someone why they didn't say goodbye to me. Um, and that was another really tough time in my life because it was just a shocking thing more than anything. And his mom was actually the first one I called, and I went and met with her, and she was very upset to learn the things that her son had done. And come to find out later, he actually had a relationship with that girl in the youth ministry, and he we divorced. So we divorced within 4 months, and that was a really tough time for me also because we had actually just bought a house together, and I was left taking care of all those responsibilities unexpectedly. And yeah, I just had to get through it. But I again say it was a blessing in disguise
Yeah.
because I was struggling in my marriage, but I saw marriage as something as a commitment that you stay with, you stick with, you work through things, you get through it. Like you through the tough times, the bad times, the good times, you stick together. So I was willing to stick it out even though I had been hurt and had feelings of like I could feel like I was unloved, but I just stuck it out like maybe this just is a downtime and we'll have an uptime, type of thing, because I saw it as a commitment for life. Um, but he gave me a way out of it by doing that, honestly. And I have a huge blessing as a husband, which I'll get into that in a little bit. But so anyways, he was basically the only guy I ever dated. So I was left at 25 years old, never having dated anyone really. Um, I had one boyfriend before him and we were together for like a month as a 14-year-old, so that's not really dating. But anyways, so I was like, what do I do? How do I find somebody? Um, I we were going to a church together, but it was a very small church. So, and his family was very heavily involved in it. So I was like, I didn't really feel comfortable going there still. So I ended up getting plugged into a very big, large evangelical church. It's one I would never go to nowadays, but at the time it was what I knew to do. So I went to that and got plugged in there. And
And
it was very hard.
are you or were you in an area where like I don't live somewhere like that where I can just like go down the street and find whatever denomination I want. Do you live somewhere where there are lots of churches?
Yes, there are lots of churches. So yeah, um, there's a church like on every corner. There's tons of either non-denominational or Baptist churches are like the most easily found churches around here. But yeah,
So
so
you
the
went
church
to
I
the
was
big
going,
one, the big one with the music and the
yeah, they
praise.
had all the happenings and everything like that. It's like surely I can meet someone here too while I'm here. But anyway, so I was going there, and a small thing that happened there that just was a reminder to me that Yahuwah was cared about me and was watching after me is so this is a huge church, right? Like I couldn't even tell you how many people were in the audience. Um, and they had like an Instagram competition thing they did, or like a raffle type thing where they were giving away $100 and you had to do something on a raffle and it was like a random drawing. And I won. It was $100. I won $100 in a time where I was like just struggling to get by. And to me, like it was just a huge blessing, like that Yahuwah saw me and he cared about me and he was going to take care of me. So it's something that was kind of small. It just was to me, it was a huge deal. Um, anyways, so I was I was still I was focused on God, but I was still like I'm 25. I gotta find somebody. I still need to have kids and stuff. I'm getting so old, which is funny now because I don't really feel like that is that old. But so I ended up joining some dating sites, which I do not recommend. and had to talk to a lot of strange, interesting people. But I,
Did you at least join like a Christian dating site? I also spent some time on dating sites and like I
yeah,
was done quite quickly, but I saw a difference. No, actually, I don't know if I saw a difference between the Christian and non-Christian dating sites because really anybody can call themselves Christian.
yeah, the Christian site was honestly the worst to me. 'Cause I was part of the Christian site. Um, and I joined the popular one, Match.com. And yeah, I went on a few dates and it was very strange to me just because it was a whole different world than dating in middle school. Um, and I had a strong conviction not to have intercourse before like I got married again. Because actually, rewind a little bit back, the man I originally married, we did wait until we were married to have relations. So that was another reason why that was so devastating to me what occurred because we had held out for that, or at least I had. I don't know again, if it was true on his part. But anyways, so I had trouble finding someone that just had similar beliefs as me. And I was just I guess you could say an everyday Christian. I wasn't like fully dedicated. I mean, I was going to church every week and reading my Bible here and there type thing, but it was different than how my relationship is now, I would say. So I was just your regular Sunday going Christian, I would say. But I was having a hard time finding someone that even aligned with me on that, even though like in my profiles, I put like that was an important part of my life. Um, so, anyways, when I was on Match.com, I got a message from someone named Sherwood, and he had a picture of him and his son. And in my profile, I had mentioned that I wasn't interested in dating anyone that had kids, mostly just because I didn't want to have to deal with drama from the other side type of thing. Not that I didn't want kids, like I very much wanted kids and desired that. But I just didn't want to I wanted the least amount of drama as possible in my life. But anyway, so Sherwood was like, I'm just gonna take a chance, which knowing him now, that's totally him. He that's totally his personality. And he messaged me and we never stopped talking since he first messaged me, basically.
I'm gonna cry. Did he mention that in one of the first interactions? Like, yes, I'm aware, but
Yeah.
he did.
Yes, he
Okay, so
did.
he
He
didn't
did.
just he saw,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
read what you wrote. He just
Did.
still decided he was gonna
Yeah.
oh and he won
Yep.
your
And I'm
heart
just gonna take a
immediately.
chance. Why not? So he got me
Were
on the
you living
phone
in the
later
same
that
state? Were you both living close by or?
we weren't in the same state, but we were like an hour away from each
Okay.
other, so it wasn't too far. But he got me on the phone that night, and I am not a phone person. I think you and your husband are kind of the same too. Yeah. I am not a phone person, but we talked, I think it was like 2 hours, and I am also not a late night person. And I was on the phone till like midnight with him, just because we couldn't stop talking. And we went on a date the next day. And I couldn't stop smiling when I was with him. Like I just something was different about him. Like I just knew. And he knew also, and you'll probably have a testimony time with him, so he'll probably expound on that more. But he had never had a serious relationship ever, so it was like very new to him and very weird to him that he like had such strong feelings. Um, but he kind of backed off a little bit at first because it kind of scared him, I think, that he like liked me so much. And it wasn't that long. Like within a month, we were pretty serious, and we were not we're not having a very godly relationship, I will say. Um, but we got married pretty fast. Within 8 months of meeting each other, we were married. 2 months before we got married, we got pregnant with my daughter. Um, and yeah, so
And how old is she now? I'm still trying to understand the timing.
she's 8, almost 9.
Okay, great.
Yeah, yeah, and she's a huge blessing. So even though we weren't doing the right thing, we were still blessed with a blessing, a child. And so we were going to church together at that time. Sherwood had kind of started going to church right before he met me, but he wasn't like steadily going. But once we were together, we were pretty much going every week. And we were still going to this big evangelical church that I had gotten involved with. And then we ended up finding a church that was kind of closer to where we were at. Because I moved to where he lived. And so we ended up going to a church together and joining there. And we were serving in the kids' ministry and stuff like that. So we were pretty involved. And but there were still times where we were just like, we don't feel like going this week, so let's not go. We weren't like people that know us now, we weren't like how we are now. Um, so that was 2016. And um fast forward to 2018 or not 2018, 2020 when the world shut down. That really shook us. Well, actually, 3 months before that, Sherwood actually confessed to me that he had a porn addiction, but he had been freed of it. So um, that was kind of scary for me a little bit, but I really felt the Holy Spirit was with me during that time because I didn't panic. I didn't get upset with him. I trusted him really. And I
That
don't,
could have been the most triggering thing for you
yeah,
ever. Like it could not probably have been a worse confession that he was bringing to
yeah,
you. It was not drugs, it was not drinking. It was the
yeah,
worst thing it could have been. Wow.
yeah. So, we were actually at a marriage conference that weekend when he confessed to me. And, um, like I could tell that his confession was real when he confessed to me because there was crying and there was like it was almost like there was a release in our marriage when it happened. Like it was a very spiritual moment. So I definitely knew it was genuine, and this is 5 years later, almost 6 years later, I can tell you it was 100% genuine. The Holy Spirit had really helped him be free of that. And so then after that, that's when the world kind of shut down, and we had to actually read our Bibles for ourselves because our church also shut down. And I think almost everyone kind of went through that experience that was going to church at the time that the churches shut down. And we were having to watch online, and it wasn't the same for
Oh,
us as
I know
church.
exactly where this is going. This is awesome. It
So,
shut down, so we had to read our Bibles for ourselves, and then look what happened. Wow.
yeah. Well, we had a little blip before we actually saw some truth in the scriptures, but we actually did start reading our Bibles, like not just like picking it up here and there. Um, was the first one. He read through it completely. And we were watching like the big evangelical churches online and stuff, and he came to me and he was like, I don't think we should be watching these people. They're not being very biblical, with how they're preaching. And at first I had a little resistance at first because I enjoyed listening to these preachers. They make you feel good. And but then I started seeing it too. Like I couldn't watch them anymore because it wasn't real to me. I didn't feel like they were giving me meat. It was just all milk. And so yeah, so at this point, or right before that, I would say Sherwood wasn't really being like a spiritual leader in the home because he just didn't have a good foundation of the scriptures. Like even though I wasn't like wholeheartedly in, I had more of a foundation because I did grow up in church, and was involved in it. Like he didn't even know like the simplest Bible stories that a lot of people might know, that did grow up in church. So I was the one kind of teaching the kids, about the Bible and leading them in prayers and stuff like that. We weren't like praying at meal times or anything, like you would see, I guess, in a typical home that's following the Bible. And so yeah, I was kind of the spiritual head, but once he started reading the Bible, he really stepped up. It was pretty amazing. And in turn, that encouraged me to be more in the word. Like I wasn't having to force myself to read my Bible every day. Like I actually wanted to because he was asking me questions about things and I was like, I don't know the answer to that. I need to read too, you know? And so we ended up getting involved in a Reformed Baptist church. And some people might be familiar with that, or they might be familiar with Calvinism. So it was that type of church. It was a small church. And when we first started going, it was actually really great because it was so different than the churches we had been going to because they actually opened up the Bible and they would read straight passages from the Bible. It wasn't like going from one verse here to another verse here to another verse here. They would read like a whole chapter and then they would discuss it. So to us, we were like, oh, wow, they're going so deep into the scriptures. And so we were there about 2 years.
It's all relative, right?
Yeah. But I think about like a year and a half in there, Sherwood started seeing like things that he didn't think lined up with scripture. And and I had felt that too, but I didn't know how to like verbalize it, I guess you could say. Like a lot of times that's kind of how I am. Like I'll feel in my spirit that something isn't right, but I don't necessarily know how to verbalize like, okay, this isn't right because of this. And that's where Sherwood comes in and he's really good at like discerning like why this isn't right. So I think we kind of work together well in that area. Um, but yeah, he started seeing some things that he just didn't think aligned with scripture and he questioned them. He asked lots of questions, not coming at it like in a confrontational, you're wrong type of way, but just like genuinely wanted to know, like, why don't we do the Sabbath? Why, like those type of things. And he had come to me and asked me about the Sabbath. And I was like, I don't know why we don't do the Sabbath. Like, I didn't really remember hearing a lot about it growing up. I remember one time my pastor at our family church had preached a sermon about on Sunday, like we should have a resting time and we shouldn't be going out to eat or going to the store on Sunday and stuff like that. But I don't remember him preaching it like as in a like we need to keep the Sabbath type of way. And he was preaching it as Sunday, I guess. He was saying Sunday as the Sabbath, but I don't remember him like saying that directly. But other than that, I didn't know why we didn't keep the Sabbath. Like I had no idea. um, so he challenged me on that and challenged me on Yeshua and the laws. And at first I kind of resisted him a little bit because I was like, no. And within the week though,
So
because
this
I
was like 4 years ago, give or take.
yes, yeah, it was about 4 years ago. Well, it was about 4.5 when he first came to me because we weren't following in the ways at that point. But he had been looking into it and hadn't really said anything to me, and then he decided to bring it to me. And I, prayed about it and kind of read up on the sides of it and everything. Um, and I was like, I don't fully understand why this is real, but it does make sense. Like I think that he's correct. Like we should be doing these things. We should be at least keeping the Sabbath. And that was the only thing he had really brought to me was the Sabbath. Like we didn't know any of the other stuff, even though we had read through the Bible. It's just like when you read through, I think about reading through Leviticus at the time when I was just reading my Bible just to say I read my whole Bible basically. Like none of it really stood out to me. I was just reading it. Okay, I read chapter 1 today. I read chapter 2 today, like a checklist almost. Um, Whereas now when I read Leviticus, I'm like amazed at like seeing how the tabernacle operated and how later the temple would operate with the priest and all the different laws that he gave and just seeing like really how beautiful they are. But at the time we didn't know anything. The only thing he really brought to me was the Sabbath. And I mean, that's in the Ten Commandments, so we should at least be doing that one, I felt. Um, but anyways, the church we were at did not like our questions. um, or didn't give satisfactory answers really. And it was so weird because we kept going there even once we started seeing that we needed to keep the Sabbath. So we were keeping the Sabbath Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, and then still going to church on Sunday because we wanted fellowship. We didn't know how to find fellowship. Like we had no idea. How do we find people that keep the Sabbath? Like you can't just find a church, even though we had tons of churches where we lived, there was none that were doing a Saturday Sabbath. So we were still going to church on Sunday and we were going to their Bible study that they had on Thursdays. And it was just so weird because during that time, the women's Bible study I was part of started studying Matthew, which anyone that's part of the Torah movement or whatever you want to call it knows there's a big verse in Matthew 5 about Yeshua fulfilling the law. So it was
And the
just so
whole
interesting.
Sermon on the Mount, Matthew, I was just saying, Jesse and I made a video the other day, and like we just kept saying Matthew. I'm like, I have to go back and read Matthew. It's been a little while, and I'm in just a totally different, this the Sermon on the Mount magnified the Torah. It didn't take away from it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Right.
But it's just like it was so amazing that all this was coming up as Sherwood and I were actually like studying this at home. And I did not speak up. I wish I would have, but I didn't speak up during this time. But I was just like playing in my mind, like, why is he bringing all this stuff to light to me? Like, it was just like so obvious to me that it wasn't what they were saying it was. And it was like my eyes were just opened, like fully opened because, like I was telling you earlier, when Sherwood brought it to me, like I felt in my spirit that this was right, but I couldn't verbally say why it made sense, type of thing. But we just going through that study and just seeing that what they were saying in the Bible study did not line up with what I saw in scripture, like just made it real to me, more real to me. And I don't even know how at some point they even brought up eating pork and how it was fine to eat it now and stuff like that. And I just didn't I wasn't brave enough to say anything. It was actually funny. Sherwood and I, we knew about the food laws, but we were vegan. We were following a vegan diet. We started that in 2018 and for health reasons, and we felt so good once we went vegan that we just stayed vegan because I'm lactose intolerant, so dairy was just like a no-go for me. So I felt amazing not eating vegan. I mean, not eating dairy anymore. And we were eating so unhealthy before. We were always eating out and stuff like that. So of course we felt amazing because I had to cook all of our meals and everything. And yeah, so the pork thing wasn't a huge deal to us. Like it was like whatever. And we can't eat pork. We're not gonna eat pork, so it doesn't matter. We're not eating any meat. Um anyways, so we stayed at that church about 9 months while I was still doing the Sabbath, and it was so hard to be there because like we felt opposition against everything they were saying. We were bringing our kids there and they were having to hear that, and we'd have to go back home and like reteach things. And so we ended up meeting with the pastor and his wife, and we love the pastor and his wife. We still have a relationship with them today, even though we don't agree scripturally. We still, see them as friends and fellow believers. So we met with them just to let them know that we were no longer going to be going to the church, and just we thought that was the right thing to do, not just to leave and disappear. So we did that, and they were concerned for us, obviously, as many people are when they see you going in this direction. Um, but anyways, we did that, and we still didn't have anywhere to fellowship. We did find a place that was like an hour away from us, and we started going there like on and off. It was kind of a big task to go because it was like a 6 hour service type thing, and it was an hour away, and we had young children. And but we wanted fellowship, so we did try to go whenever we could. And yeah, so also during this time, I think this was actually a little bit before we started seeing the truth in the scriptures. After I had my son Micah, who is 7 now, Sherwood got a vasectomy just because we were like, we don't want to have any more children, just because I had Adeline, my 8 year old, and then Micah, my 7 year old. I had them so close together that it was just so much on me. And I was still working full time. So it was just a lot. So in our minds, we didn't have any biblical counsel or anything to go to tell us, hey, you guys shouldn't do this. Maybe you should just, try to figure out a way to not have children for a little while and or take a break or something. But so anyways, he decided to have a vasectomy and we were fine with it. Like, you know, we didn't have to worry about getting pregnant or anything like that. And so yeah, so that happened I think in 2019, and then in 2021 is when we really started keeping the Sabbath. And um we're trying to find fellowship. And then it took us about a year to actually find good fellowship. And we actually ended up finding a really good group. And it was a blessing to find other people that were following in the same way we were. And right before that, actually, sorry, I'm getting things out of order. Right before that, we were we were living in the city. It wasn't like New York City type of city, but it was in the city. It wasn't like how we live now, where we're out in the country. And Sherwood will probably share this if he does the testimony because it's more his story. But we kind of got ourselves in a bad situation financially, like a really bad situation. And with the housing market in 2020 and 2021, we were able to sell our house that we had bought like 4 years prior, and we were able to get a lot more for it than what we paid for it, which ended up being a blessing because we were able to pay off some of our debt that we had created. And when we did that, though, that was a huge deal because we felt called to sell our house. Like we felt like a prod from the Holy Spirit, like we need to sell our house. But we had no idea what we were doing when we sold it. Like no idea at all. We were considering getting into an RV and just, doing that, or like we had no idea what we were gonna do if our house sold. And which was a huge deal for me because I like to plan things. I like to make sure I have a plan. Sherwood, he's very spontaneous. He's fine not having a plan. He's just like, it'll all work out. Which I love him for that because it helps balance me out because I'm like, there has to be a plan. But it was so, I say it's strange, but it was again the Holy Spirit. Like I felt so much peace about selling our house without having a plan on what we were gonna do. Like it was such a weird feeling for me. Like, and even Sherwood thought it was like, wow, like, we are doing the right thing because you have peace about this. um, so we put our house on the market and it sold within a week, and we did not know where we were going. But at the same time, while we had put our house on the market, Sherwood and his dad own an auto repair shop. And yeah, so uh, they actually have two locations, but at the time we only had one location. One of the locations has a house on the property, and the house has like an apartment attached to it. So it's like a home, and then there's like a one-bedroom apartment that's attached to the house but doesn't have access to the house. And his dad had a tenant in there, and the tenant had actually just moved out. So the space was available right when we sold our house. So we moved into the one-bedroom apartment as a family of 5 with 2 dogs. And we lived there for a little over a month. It was almost 2 months. And I'm not going to say it was easy, but it was a blessing that we had a roof over our head.
Yeah.
We put all of our stuff into storage except for what we needed in the apartment. And I was working right down the road, and then Sherwood was obviously right next door because he worked at a family business. So that was nice. Our commute was very easy.
Trying to imagine, like, did y'all camp out on the floor?
Yeah, so there was a bedroom. So me and Sherwood were in there, and the kids just had roll-up beds that they slept
Yeah.
on the floor in the living room. Because there
Wow.
was a living room, a kitchen, and a bedroom and a bathroom. That was all.
You were not a family of 5 with 2 dogs, homeless, right? Like
Correct. Yep.
it is a blessing. Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it was a huge blessing. It was challenge. It was very challenging, but it was a huge blessing. Um, So yeah, and then while we were there, we were like looking at every property available because we wanted to get out, because it's very hard to live in a one-bedroom apartment with a family of 5. And we just weren't finding what we wanted because we knew that we needed land because we just felt a strong calling that we needed to learn how to live off the land and, helps be able to sustain ourselves, which we're not there. We're not to that point yet, but we have learned so much. Anyways, we were looking at every property available, and one Sunday afternoon, I was scrolling Facebook, and a thing on Marketplace popped up about a house that was for sale. And the pictures were very weird. Like you couldn't really tell like what the house was. It said it was a two-bedroom house, but it was on 8 acres. So I was like, okay, well, might as well go check it out. We don't have nothing else to do. So it was for sale by owner. So we called them up and they said, yeah, y'all can come on over and look at it. And so we drove out here, and it was about 45 minutes away from where we lived at the time. And when we saw the house from the outside, I was like, no way, that's a two-bedroom house, because it looked pretty big. And we explored around and we fell in love with the place. Like we loved it. It was perfect. And it is a two-bedroom house, but there is an extra room that's not a bedroom that we converted to a room, basically. Um, and yeah, so we fell in love with it, and the owner had it listed at a price that we could manage, but we weren't super comfortable with. So we made an offer for her that was, I think it was 30,000 less than what she was asking, which was a huge deal because during this time the market was still doing very good. Like people were selling their houses for way more than they bought it for, basically. And we're like, might as well ask. And Sherwood actually had a very long conversation about her faith with her because she was actually a believer. And she said she accepted our offer, basically, is the short story. She accepted our offer. She said that she had someone else that had offered her full price, and she just felt like it belonged to us. So that was a huge blessing. Um, so
I'm
yeah,
I'm covered in goosebumps. That was another blessing for you guys, eh?
it
Wow.
was a huge blessing. So we she actually let us start moving our stuff in before she was fully out, just because we were so excited to get out of the apartment. So as soon as she signed the papers, we were ready to like move into the house, basically, because she let us come over here and paint it, and because we wanted to repaint the whole house and everything like that. So she let us come in and do that type of stuff while she was still in the process of
That's so
moving
fast
out.
though, Christina. That is
Yeah.
just like you could have been stuck in that apartment for years. Like I can't
Yeah.
I
Yeah. It was definitely a blessing. Um, so yeah, and we were still walking in the way at this point, and we had a good fellowship that we were a part of. And yeah, things were just going really, really well for us. And during this time, though, I started feeling like a really heavy burden on my heart about Sherwood's vasectomy. Like I just felt like what we did was wrong. Like I didn't really know exactly why, but I was like, I can't believe we did that. And I mean, I would cry about it. Like I made it where I can't have kids anymore. Like I was just so heartbroken. And I told Sherwood, and he had actually been feeling the same way. And but he said that he would never go through the process of getting it reversed just because of the pain, which I totally understood if he didn't want to go through that. And that was like another stab because I was like, okay, then there's just no chance, like, for us to to reverse this. And I think it was almost a year later, I want to say, after we had that conversation, uh, we decided to do a fast. And I had never done like a true fast before. Like I had done like churches have like a corporate fast where everyone's fasting at once, like the Daniel fast or whatever. I had done that, but I'd never like done it like I guess wholeheartedly, I guess you could say. So me and him decided to have a fast, not for any particular reason. We were just like, let's do a spiritual fast for a day. And so we did that. And while we were doing the fast, I didn't tell him what I was focusing on during that time, but I was just praying that about the whole baby situation, like not never having a child again. And I just prayed that if Yahuwah didn't want us to have any more kids, just to take that burden off of me, like that I had on my heart, like forgive us and then help me release that burden from me because it was unbearable, like honestly. Like I just felt so heavy with it. Um, and I can't remember if it was that same day or the next day. I don't remember. But anyways, it was very, very soon after we had that fast. Sherwood called me while he was at work and he asked me if I remembered who the doctor was who did his vasectomy. And I was like, why? He was like, I want to call them and see how much it costs to get reversed. And I was like, what? So, just him saying that was like a huge miracle to me. Like after praying and fasting, it was like almost an instant answer to my prayer. Like, okay, he's not going to take this burden from me. He's helping Sherwood fill some of it where he's willing to think about getting this reversed. And so he ended up calling the doctor, and that doctor didn't do reversals. So he called someone else, and we found out that it was extremely expensive to get a reversal. Like 10,000 was the cheapest I think we found. Lots of money. So then, so I was on a high, like, yes, we're gonna be able to do this, and then kind of, dip down, like, okay, why is Yahuwah showing us this? And then it's like this huge expense that we could not afford unless we saved for years and years. And by then I'll be like 40, you
Kristina,
know.
this is the most painful cliffhanger anybody's taken me on during a testimony. I'm just going to tell you that. Just hurry up and tell me what happened.
So I got my research hat on and I was like, I'm gonna find somewhere where we can get a reversal. Like surely there's somewhere that's good and that does it for cheaper, but without like, sacrificing quality. Because that's really important. And long story short, I found someone in Oklahoma that does it as a ministry. And it was right under $2,000. He does it. His
Because
family,
because you guys are not the first couple that
he has done so many, and he specifically wants it for people that want to get it done to reverse it to have kids. Like he doesn't want them just to reverse it or for health problems or
but
whatever.
when you
Like
say as a
he needs
ministry,
that.
he's a believer. Like this is a passion for him is to help people
Yep.
continue to be fruitful and multiply. That's
Yep. Exactly.
incredible.
Yep. Because he went through the same thing where he had a vasectomy and then he regretted it and got it reversed. So then he turned it into a ministry. And it's the reversal clinic. He's in Oklahoma. Um, it was right under 2,000 when we did it. I think he's had to go up a little bit on his price, but it's nothing compared to what it is if you just go to, your local urologist. But so we were able to save up some money, and then also both of our parents helped us um, pay for it. So we flew out there November 2023 and underwent that, and the healing process was a little bit challenging for sure, but I'm so thankful that he was willing to do that and went through the pain of that. um, and he will tell you it was 100% worth it. Even though it was definitely difficult for him. It wasn't anything like getting the vasectomy done. It was a lot harder on him. But anyways, it was
Also
huge.
not, it's also not like childbirth, probably.
Probably not. Uh, but so yeah, so November 2023, he got it done, and then so the doctor had told us that it takes about 11 months to get pregnant from the procedure. Like that was the average time. We ended up getting pregnant in February of 2024. So December, January, February, it was 3 months. Um, and sadly, that did end in miscarriage. And we had never experienced miscarriage before, like any of the other times we had been pregnant. And that was really, really, really challenging for us because in our mind, that wasn't a possibility, because we had never experienced it. I had had friends that had gone through it, but I didn't truly know what it felt like. And I can say that, Yahuwah used that for good because now I have a better understanding of people that have gone through child loss or gone through miscarriage. That is a little different than child loss, obviously. But I have a better understanding. I can empathize more with people that have gone through that. And and it also led me to do a lot of research about fertility and what we need to do with our bodies to help prepare our bodies to get pregnant and stuff like that. So I went on a deep dive with that. And so yeah, that was a very challenging time just because I had what was called a missed miscarriage. So the baby actually passed away inside of me, but my body didn't recognize I was miscarrying. So I found out when I was supposed to be 11 weeks that the baby had passed at between 6 and 7 weeks. And we are very natural minded. We don't like to use pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. We know there's a time and place for it, obviously. But I was like trying to do natural herbs and stuff like that to help my body pass the baby. And I waited for about 6 weeks, and it was just so hard just knowing, what my body was going through. Um, and I talked to my midwife, and we both decided that it was best for me just to go through with going to the doctor and having them help with the process. So I had to go through that, and once that happened, I was able to heal like mentally a little bit better because my body had released. Um, but yeah, so about a month, well, 2 months later, we became pregnant again. And it was actually we were excited, but it was scary just because of what we had just went through, like that was in the forefront of our minds that was a possibility. And so yeah, we found out we were pregnant, and we were hesitant to be excited. We didn't really want to share with everyone. Like the last time we shared with everyone right away, like we told everyone we knew because we were just, so excited. And yeah, and I actually had a little scare where I thought I was miscarrying like a week after I found out with him. And yeah, it like shook me. But the whole pregnancy was definitely a big faith process. Like I really had to trust in Yahuwah with it because there were a lot of things that came up throughout my pregnancy that were challenging that I had to deal with, some different health scares and stuff like that. But Yahuwah sustained me through the process, and he really took care of us. And in February of 2025, I had my first natural birth into our baby boy, Josiah. Because with my last two babies, we were not natural minded at all. I did the whole hospital birth. I got an epidural. I, did all the pain stuff and everything like that. Didn't feel a thing. Um, and so I had no clue. We were doing everything so different. And I gave birth at a birth center. With our laws here in Florida, I wasn't able to have a home birth with a midwife just because you have to be a certain distance to the hospital. Um, Unfortunately, because I really wanted to have a home birth, but the birth center was the next best thing because it's set up kind of like a home, and you can leave within like 3 hours after giving birth. So it was a very different experience. Um,
Yeah, it's
so
wild, eh? When you've gone through it already during the hospital system, and then you have midwives, and
yeah.
I don't know for you, but your option midwife or doctor, or
Yeah,
are
you
there
can.
midwives in the hospitals too?
There are midwives in the hospital, and actually, with Micah, my 7-year-old, I actually used a midwife in the hospital, but I still did all
It's
the.
not the same thing, right? Are your birth centers like cozy, like kind of more feel like you're homey kind of thing? Yeah, we
Yeah,
have
they're set up like a home.
yeah.
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 Yeah, I gave birth. It was in a bedroom. They had a bed in there and a bathtub, and I gave birth in the tub.
And on the nervous system and on the entire like just on the entire I was a doula for many years, and I gave birth like yourself. The first time I was in the hospital, same thing, epidural, da, da, da. Things went the way it goes in the hospital. I became a doula, and then the second time it was a home birth, and I had two doulas and three midwives at the house, and I was like men be gone, go. But actually, when I was right, it was a 3 hour birth. My boy was born in 3 hours, start to finish, and it was fast and furious. And I wanted his dad to be there. And anyway, so I haven't thought about this stuff in a long time. You know, they're old, and it was until COVID, I was still working in that stream, and then I wasn't allowed in the hospital because I wasn't jabbed and all that stuff. So I got rid of that part of my career, but you're giving me some nostalgia for being back in the I don't I'm getting up to be the same age as Sarah, so I'm not sure I'm having any babies again, but
Not there yet.
sorry to cut
Um,
you off. I got super excited about this whole I'm so stoked for you guys. It's I don't know either of you, as I was saying, but it did mark me when I saw the birth of your baby. It was I didn't see the birth of your baby, but when I saw stuff kind of come across my timeline, I was very touched by it and by you guys kind of walking people through some of the decisions you made. And I could see, you know, some, I'm talking about circumcision. I could see
yeah.
some resistance and
Yeah.
pushback and stuff. And it's just like I was trying to put myself in your position when my kids were born. I actually, Jesse and I just made a video about circumcision of the heart. And so we started talking about this kind of stuff. And when I was a doula and when my kids were born, I considered myself an intactivist. So I was firmly against circumcision under all circumstances, you know. And being where I am now, I'm not so sure what I would do, you know what I mean? So I kind of was putting myself in your position when you guys, I was watching Sherwood kind of have these conversations with people, and I just felt like anyway, as I said before we got on camera, I just appreciate his grace, and he's like a man who's in this community who is just so solid and graceful. And you guys are a really, really lovely couple.
Thank you.
I'm so
I'm
glad
glad you could see
that
that
he
through on mine because unfortunately we've had to deal with the opposite of people saying not so nice things about us, just because of our beliefs.
well, it's just because they don't like the message, right? But it's delivered. I do find that he delivers, but I mean, I also agree with pretty much everything he ever says to the point where sometimes I don't go and look for posts, you know, we just get our algorithm and
Yeah.
like it's happened numerous occasions where Jesse and I will make a video or do something relatively large and then Sherwood's on the same wavelength that day. And it's happened a number of times.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know what the hive mind thing is, but it's really cool and we really appreciate him and I'm super super glad that we've been able to hear your story and how everything intersects and
I did want to bring up one more thing
I
because
wasn't cutting you off. I just got excited about
you're
the
fine.
birth stuff because I even in doing the testimonies, no, it hasn't come up too much. So you're in it, right? Your baby's little still.
Yes, and we will prayerfully have more. We're open to having however many he allows or gives us. It's so funny to me though because I'm 35 right now and I used to think that would have been old to have kids, but now I'm like 35 is nothing. Like I still have plenty of years left to be able to have kids. Um, but I did want to back up a little bit since I did mention about us being vegan. We are no longer vegan. And I know people have different opinions about it. It's not really a biblical reason why we're not vegan, but it's kind of a funny reason why we're no longer vegan. I think it was our second Passover we did. So our first Passover, we didn't have a community to celebrate with, so we just did our best with what we knew to do. And we were actually in that tiny little apartment when we had our first Passover. Um, and it was just us and our kids, and there was no lamb. And I know people have different views on whether you're supposed to have lamb or not, but there was no lamb because we were vegan. So we just did all the other stuff that we knew to do. And for our second Passover, we actually had a fellowship of believers that we were able to do Passover with. And one of the ladies made lamb, and we're like, well, we're supposed to eat lamb as part of the command, so I guess we'll just have a tiny piece of it because we were never vegan like for like save the animals type of reason. It was more like health reasons. Um, so Sherwood and I both had a tiny piece of lamb, and we tried to get the kids to eat a tiny piece, and they wouldn't. But they were pretty much always vegan, so that was very strange to them. They had never really had meat before, or the younger kids, obviously our oldest had. But like a couple of weeks later, Sherwood was like, he couldn't stop thinking about the lamb. So he ordered a whole bunch of meat from an online source, and we started eating meat shortly after Passover.
That's super funny. I had an instinct, right? When you were talking about being vegan, I was gonna crack a joke was did Passover turn you into meat eaters? I had a feeling
It
it was
did.
that because I do know I have come across people who are vegan with the exception of eating a little bit of lamb at Passover. I have seen that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So yeah, but we actually learned a lot because our friends that we were fellowshipping with, one of the couples there, they were very into eating healthy, but they included like meats and stuff in their diet. So we learned a lot from them about it's important where you source your meat and your dairy and stuff like that. And I've learned that I can actually have raw dairy and it doesn't bother me at all. So we do raw milk, raw cheese, we do pasture raised eggs, pasture raised chicken, grass-fed beef, stuff like that. So we are very, very intentional about what we eat. I make pretty much everything from scratch, which some days I wish I could just go to a restaurant and just order food, but but I'm thankful that I have the ability to be able to provide clean meals for my family, and they won't have to struggle with going through the process of getting that out of their lives, when they're older. Um, so yeah. But,
wow. Thank you so much, Christina. I don't want you to feel like I'm rushing you. I wasn't cutting you off before. I'm really glad you told that story about the lamb.
I'm just trying to think. There's just so much that's happened in my life. I'm trying to think if there's something important that I may have forgotten about. I did pray that Yahuwah would just let me speak what needs to be spoken and just kind of guide where I went with everything.
Yeah, you'll
Um,
inevitably look back and say, "Oh, I should have said this, that, and the other
yeah.
thing." But there'll be more times. There'll be more times for sure.
Yeah, and I know whatever I shared today will probably be meant for someone because I just truly believe that he uses everything we go through for good.
He really does, and the testimonies are so awesome. I listen back to each testimony a number of times through the week before anybody else gets to watch them, and I just like, not that I memorize what people say, but it does. I'm still touched. Like I can go back and watch a testimony 4 times and still be touched by it, and everybody's story is so different. And some people I've asked if they want to do it, and they just feel like my story is not important enough, and it's just not the case. Everybody has a journey and everybody has gone from one life to a new life,
Yeah.
to keep walking on this path and getting somewhere else, usually
Yeah.
more profound. And yeah, a number of people I'm sure will be very blessed and very yeah, we'll see who's drawn toward watching this. I hope some new moms or some new young women who are aspiring to be moms soon will get their eyes on this. And that story is so beautiful. It's also
Yeah.
beautiful. I'm really, really happy that we took the time to talk. And yeah, we'll talk to you again soon, I hope. And as we said, maybe the guys can have a time to meet and we can hear Sherwood's story. And that's always nice is to see how each couple's stories kind of, you kind of see how everything knits together. And usually the people who are on this walk are, obviously if we're each interviewing somebody, it's because that couple is equally yoked. And it's rare. I think you know that. It's
Mhm.
actually rare. Like when you guys came to this and you grew together. And I don't know if you've noticed now, there's a lot of women around us who are on this path who are very alone because their husbands are either still, you know, very much in Christianity or just not at all. Some people go from atheism to this path, and they're alone. They're not spiritually covered. It's where you and I are two very blessed women to have very knowledgeable Bible believing reading men with us that we can that's how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be able to talk to our husbands about this stuff, right?
It's definitely a blessing. And I will say that's something that we have struggled with on this walk is that it is a lot of women. So Sherwood doesn't necessarily have a lot of men like in person that he's able to fellowship with because our fellowship has kind of gone through ups and downs. And right now we don't really have like a lot of people that are fellowshipping because just people move away or whatever, things happen in life. But it's mostly women. There's not a lot of men around us that walk this way and want a fellowship. So if anyone wants to
I'm trying to
do that,
figure it out. I'm trying to figure out why, Christina.
I don't know.
It's I don't know if it's always been like that. I'm new here, so I keep saying I just showed up and I'm trying to understand what the heck is going on.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I mean, in my own personal life, like the men in my family, like the women have gravitated towards following, even if they're not following the way that we are, they're still following Yeshua as their Messiah. And the men don't, like just in general. Like there's definitely I think there's some type of attack on men because if you think about it, like if there's no men to lead, then there's it's just the women and it's not the way that Yahuwah intended a family unit to
Yeah,
be.
sure. I mean, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. And the men are legitimately becoming weaker for XYZ reasons and yeah, okay. That's funny. That's for some reason not a piece of the puzzle that I put together in the last few weeks of how I'm trying to understand. Yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you. That's now I have one more ingredient to add to my pie of what the heck is this? Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I really look forward to talking to you again, and I hope you guys have a great, it's still super early, and we have the rest of our prep day ahead of us. I can smell some pot roast cooking over there, and I hope that you have a really great Sabbath tonight and tomorrow.
Um,
Yeah,
just one more thing. If anyone that's watching this wants to reach out to me about any of the things that I discussed, they are more than welcome to find me on Facebook and message me or add me, and I'd be happy to discuss anything. Like if they're wanting to know more about the vasectomy reversal or anything that I've been through, I'm always happy to discuss that with people.
excellent. Thank you so much, and thanks for naming that. Not everybody necessarily wants to chit chat. That's so awesome. So your name up here, Christina Cook, is spelled the same on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. I was thinking, what I'll say one more thing. It's stupid, maybe. Um, but because Jesse and I have pretty much the same name, we often get people send us the wrong messages and stuff. And I put on Facebook, like, I need a new name. Oh yeah, you had message. That's why it was in my mind. I can't remember what you said.
I asked what your middle name was.
Yeah, okay. But then I was just thinking, like, man, I wish I had a name that was as cool as Sherwood Cook the Third. Like, that's like, there's no cooler name than Sherwood Cook the Third. It's the best. I can't just add a Jenny Willie the Fourth. Like,
Yeah.
it's not true. So anyway. So people can reach out to you guys and yeah, hopefully the boys can talk soon. I would love to hear his story too.
Yeah, I'm sure he would love to do that.
Great. Thank you so much, Christina. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.